everybody, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I have someone new here. This is Zara Uriah. He was born November 7th. Say hi. Hello. Oh, he just farted. This is going to be the extended version of my labor and delivery story. So I had a pretty smooth labor and delivery. I didn't really have any issues besides low iron, which I was given iron pills to take to help with the anemia and all of that. But I didn't really take them like I was supposed to because I was moving and working and just didn't make it a priority in my pregnancy, which resulted in a lot of issues during my labor and delivery, which I will get to. So the weeks following up into my pregnancy, I was not dilated. I had no signs of labor whatsoever. Like the baby hasn't dropped, I still had a high belly, my cervix was completely closed, there was nothing. 38, 39 week appointment, my doctor said, okay, this is your scheduled induction date. I just remember being a little bit saddened that I actually had to have an induction date. I didn't think that would actually happen to me. And but I talked to my mom and she said that she was scheduled to have an induction with me, but she just didn't go to the hospital, and she just let me come whenever I felt like I was ready to be born. And I wish I would have taken that route, but I was just so eager to meet my son, and I figure, what's the worst that could happen? Women get induced every day, and I had done my research, and I still knew that with being induced, there are complications. Baby's heart rate drops, fetal distress, resulting in C-section and things like that. I just, once again, thought it wouldn't happen to me. My 40 weeks was on Friday, and so we went in Monday night to start the induction process. And they insert this little pill into your cervix, your vagina, to soften it. And a few hours after she did the first dose, there's supposed to be two, after the first dose, she came back and said, baby didn't like that, and she immediately put me on oxygen. So I was on oxygen, blood pressure, fetal monitor, contraction monitor. I was hooked up to an IV. I had everything going every which way. So she said, we can't give you the second dose. I said, okay, you know, not the greatest start to an induction, but I was, you know, thinking optimistically. So about 8 hours later, about 8 o'clock in the morning, my doctor came and broke my water, which hurt so much. I apparently was having contractions before then, but I couldn't feel them. And she said, once I break your water, you're going to feel the contractions, they're gonna hit you. And they hit me extremely hard. They were so painful. I also had Pitocin as well. And Pitocin makes your contractions close together and stronger. So around 12 o'clock noon, I decided I needed the epidural. I just needed it. I was so tired of being uncomfortable. That was mostly what the feeling was. It was pain, but it was mostly discomfort of pain because I was dilating very slowly. I just did not want to continue feeling like that until God knows how long. So I said, I'm going to get the epidural. So they gave it to me, and it kicked in, it worked, but they also had to give me a catheter. So now I had all the catheter along with all these other things going on. I couldn't move, obviously. I couldn't feel my legs or anything like that. The epidural kept wearing off, it kept giving me more. And I had a Hotspot, which is an area where the epidural doesn't take, like the nerves or something, she said. So I could feel like all the pain in one area of like my uterus contracting. And so she would have to lift me, because I couldn't lift myself, back and forth, because I would prefer to be on my right side because that helps with the contractions, but baby didn't like that. Baby liked me to be on the left side, and of course he is a priority, and we don't want him to go into distress, so anything to make him comfortable we had to go with. I was slowly progressing, and then as time went on, the pain was coming back. It was more intense. I was vomiting, I had the shakes, I had the chills, and so I told my boyfriend, go get the doctor. Like, I need something, whatever they can do, I need it to be done right now. So they came back, she checked me, and she said, all right, it's time for you to push. And it was about 6 p.m. Yeah, it was about 6 p.m. at this point. And so I started to push, and I pushed at every contraction, and I could not feel a thing, okay? Like I couldn't feel anything. So I'm just taking their word that I'm doing great. You know, they're walking me through it, talking me through it, and I thought things were going well. The baby, he was crowning, but that's when they also discovered that he was face up. He was sunny side up, which makes delivery very hard for women. But I'm thinking he's crowned, so that means he's gonna come out soon. So about an hour and a half later, I'm still pushing, and my doctor says if we don't get him out in the next 30 minutes, we're gonna have to do a C-section because there's so much swelling going on, baby's going through distress, you're tired. That's just gonna have to be the end result. So after pushing with all of my might, like with everything in me, I wanted to get him out vaginally. I wanted to have this, look, if I couldn't have a natural birth, I at least wanted a vaginal birth, but it just wasn't working out for us. And I just remember crying. My sister was comforting me. The pain hit me again, and they rolled me down, so they prepped me. There's a billion people, doctors, anesthesiologists, nurses, all these people prepping me for this operation. And they rolled me in there. I just remember feeling like a scene from a movie where the patient, from their point of view, they're looking up and all they see is bright lights and sheets and heard voices. That's exactly what it felt like. And that's when I started to get scared. So I had the shakes. I was terrified. And so she pinched my abdomen where she's gonna cut, and I said, I can feel that. And she responded, and I don't really remember what she said, but whatever she said, I don't know. She went ahead and cut me open, and I could feel it. I remember, hold on, baby's crying. And so she just went ahead and started to cut, and I just screamed, I can feel that. And she stopped cutting, and then she continued to cut. And you can actually see on my incision where she stopped and started again because it's a little crooked. But after that, I completely blacked out. I don't remember a thing. I guess they put me to sleep. They knocked me out because I could feel everything. I'm not exactly sure what happened. But I woke up about 2 to 3 hours later, still in the labor and delivery room. And I didn't get to see my baby, so I didn't get to hear his first cry. I didn't get to see him, I didn't get to see anything. And I don't know, it's really hard to think about, like the first minutes, the first hours of my baby's life. I don't remember, I wasn't there. And that's really hard for me. And yeah, so when they finally brought him to me, the first thing I remember saying was, wow, he looks just like me. And I remember I started crying, and that's about all I remember with meeting him. Later on, like, I would ask my boyfriend and my mom, like, what happened, you know, so I could piece, you know, things together and kind of get the whole story and kind of feel like I was there, even though my mind, my conscience wasn't there, I guess. But mom said that I was praising God, and that I recited one of my affirmations, which was that there's no wrong way for my baby to be born. And when she told me that, about a week after, I just was bawling. I was just crying, because I still feel that way, even though I feel like I missed out on a lot. And even with the C-section, I just asked my boyfriend the other day, like, you know, what did you see? What was going on that you could see? And he told me, yeah, your intestines were out. And I'm just like, wow, that's kind of crazy. I'm glad I wasn't awake for that. But it's just those little details, the whole experience that I missed out. And I grieve it. I still grieve it to this day. He's 11 weeks. And every day I think about November 7th. And so after they took him away from me, the night he was born, I started having complications. I was hemorrhaging and bleeding out a lot. And so she would massage my uterus, which actually felt like she was killing me because I had just gotten cut open and stapled back shut, and it was extremely painful. I was screaming and crying out, and this happened for hours and hours and hours until they wheeled me into the recovery room, and I laid there for days. I could not move. My legs were still numb. I was completely sore. I couldn't stand upright. My feet were so swollen. Extremely, extremely painful. The recovery is definitely more painful than the labor. I couldn't sleep laying down. I couldn't sleep on my side. I had to sleep. Basically, I had to sleep like this in the hospital, just straight up with pillows propped on each side. I could barely hold my baby. A few days after, in the recovery room, because my iron was so low and I lost so much blood, she told me that if I left the hospital when I was scheduled to leave and something happened to me, then I probably would not live because I didn't have any blood, basically, or the blood that I had was bad. Whatever she said, it resulted in having 2 blood transfusions. I had 2 bags of blood that took 3 hours each, so 6 hours total, being hooked up to an IV to receive a stranger's blood. And that was emotionally taxing too, because I just felt like I was so broken and so many things had gone wrong, and I just wish I had taken my iron pills like I was supposed to, or I wouldn't have been going through that. The days after, like, my feet were so swollen, I could barely walk. I could feel the fluid in my feet with every step that I took. I could feel the fluid moving. My feet were so swollen I couldn't fit any of my shoes. I had to walk out of the hospital completely barefoot. So yeah, so I went in Monday night. He was born Tuesday night, and we didn't leave until Saturday morning. And I was completely terrified because I didn't have anybody. I didn't have any nurses to help me with him. I'm still in pain. I still can't walk. After giving birth, I developed mastitis, or mastitis, however you say it. I developed it, and I had a 102 fever. And then about a week later, I got it in the other breast because breastfeeding was it was extremely difficult. He wasn't latching on, and when he would latch, it would be completely shallow, so it's very painful. So like my breasts were hurting, my incisions hurting, everything on my body hurt. Completely in pain for weeks. I don't think I stopped being in pain until about the 7 or 8 week mark, where nothing was hurting for the most part. And it was just emotionally taxing for me to go through such a traumatic experience, especially since my expectation was that I wanted an all-natural water birth at home, and the reality was completely opposite. Like, there could not have been a more opposite labor and delivery than mine. But I'm just completely grateful that everything turned out well. I'm safe, baby's safe, he's healthy, he's growing, he's happy. And because of my experience, I've definitely decided to go into becoming a certified doula, which I will be doing this summer, because I just feel like having that support system of a doula. I'm reading a book, and she said that weight of support should not fall on a partner or a family member, because this is their experience too. This is their moment as well. And I definitely recall, like, a lot of times, like my boyfriend, I wanted him to be that support for me, and he was a great partner during it all. But this is his first time going through this as well. You know, he doesn't know, what to do, especially he's not a woman, and things like that. And I just think that having a doula there to talk through my options, to give me affirmation when I couldn't give myself affirmation, I just think that's very important, especially with Black women in America, who will go through complications during labor delivery at higher rates than white women. I just think that it's very important, and I want to be that for other women, especially women of color, I want to be that support for them. I want to advocate. I want to be an advocate for them. I want to be their voice when they feel like they don't have a voice. If things would have gone the way I planned, I think I would have loved giving birth and it would have been like a beautiful experience. But now I grieve the birth that I didn't have. I grieve the desire to have more children. I grieve what the experience would be like if I were to get pregnant again. I grieve not being able to have a VBAC if it comes to it. I grieve the guilt of going through with an induction, because I feel like if I would have waited, I wouldn't have gone through all of that. But he's here now and we're happy, and there are still some days where I wish I could remember what happened. There are days where I just ask my boyfriend his perspective just so I could piece, you know, things together. But that was my experience. I didn't mean to get very emotional, but yeah. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, which I think this is kind of funny, that during my operation, during my C-section, I had ripped my IV out. It was in this arm, and apparently I ripped it out and I was fighting on the table, and they came in and told mom's sister she's a fighter, which obviously I don't remember any of that. I completely blacked out. And so the next couple of days in recovery, a nurse looked at my IV on this arm and said, why is it taped up like that? And it was like tape after tape after tape basically wrapped around my hand. And I was like, I don't know, like, that's just how they did it. But in hindsight, they were trying to keep me from ripping this IV out like I did this one. So I think that's a pretty funny story. But yeah, that's pretty much all the details from my labor and delivery. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. I may do a part 2 depending on the response I get from this video, or if I think of anything else that I want to share with you all. So just leave them down below, and I will definitely answer those questions for you. Yeah, and I will see you in my next Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.